Hello, thank you for joining us today. Our objective today, drawing on our experience with our many clients, is to depict the challenges ahead for users as we again face rapid assimilation of ever more complex sources of micro-event data. First, a little bit about Lowry. With nearly 50 years as a global provider of AIDC solutions, and throughout that time maintaining relevancy, clarity, and innovation with our client base. Today's client hasn't changed their name, they have changed product, process, and all of these have come face to face with their ever faster fulfillment needs. Today's presentation addresses those fulfillment needs in our software for the IIoT era and making IIoT in blockchain. So, let's talk about fulfillment. First of all, what's the difference between IoT and IIoT? You see that here at Lowry we refer to IIoT. IoT, or the Internet of Things, is that wonderful cataclysm of information that you as consumers face every day due to the information age, whereby you are able to be told that you need some milk on the way home because your smart fridge has told you that and sent the message to your phone. It's where you know whether or not someone's knocking on your front door or ringing your doorbell. And of course, it extends across so many day-to-day events now that we hardly recognize some of them as being IoT. IIoT, the Industrial Internet of Things, is the mechanism by which we made the smart fridge, we make the phone, we make the smart car, we create the IoT device. And as such, the Industrial Internet of Things is close to our heart and hopefully close to our audience's heart today, because it is without doubt the most dramatic change towards achieving our overall game of Industry 4.0, compliance, conformance, and indeed excellence, and surpassing that. These, of course, both IoT and IIoT, are expressions or the result of expectations of fulfillment. Fulfillment, as you know, has become the word of the week, if not the year, the decade, because now we expect everything instantaneously. We have been spoiled by Amazon. When you order at the morning break, and you get it in the afternoon break, and it's come from Lord knows where. And that is only going to accelerate. The pressures in the reverse end of that delivery fulfillment is, of course, other levels of fulfillment. Do you have enough parts? Can you build it fast enough? What if they suddenly want it in red? What if they want leather? What if they want it packed in this kind of box or that kind of box? And then, of course, we go to the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh layer of fulfillment. What if I don't have that kind of box? What if we don't make that kind of box? What if? So we're in a world of what-ifness, whether we're B2Cs, C2Cs, and of course, in industry, all of this has to suddenly be achieved in 4-hour slots. This is indeed difficult. So, let's look at what makes up our as it were, stepladder or framework for the world we live in. High quality. In other words, we have to distinguish products from process, and we have to be better at both. Jeff Bezos, previously mentioned, Amazon, sent a letter this week, issued his annual letter, I believe it is, that commented on the things he expected most were high standards, and so do we, and so should you. And indeed, IIoT has no allowance for less than high standards, and that means high quality in our personal, in our commercial, and indeed in our process models. We need to be very collaborative. Our industry, AIDC, automatic identification and data capture, is built on collaboration, often between competitors, because the issue of technological change, adaptation, assimilation is so fast now that I don't think there are any of us, perhaps Google, who can squander a couple of million on a maybe it might work, maybe someone might buy it, whatever. So here we are working collaboratively with quality partners, and that's true partners, partners who join in programs, our clients who seek to extend their efficiencies in their value chain. So what's their partner role? We have a client at the moment who intends to extend what they've done to improve their fulfillment with Lowry, with our products, to exceed in their marketplace and incorporate their 216 global suppliers into that fulfillment network. And that trickle-down effect, that impact, is continuing on a daily basis now across our entire client base, and indeed, most likely in your experience and in your industry and in your use model. So it has, of course, also to be cost. And you can say cost and value, yours and theirs. What is your cost, but what is their value? What is your value and what is their cost? And where do you balance those two elements? And most importantly, you have to be investment conscious. Or is it consciousness? Timelines. Not what they were measured or assessed a year or two. No, it's now a year or two. It used to be a decade or two. So you had time to reflect, time to extrapolate, time to consider. That's not allowable anymore. So your IIoT culture, is it? Let's look at a progression to IIoT. This is our proven process. This is the path we take our clients on, and it's the stairway to success, in effect, because you have to have firmware. It's the basis of every single AIDC device you have. Unfortunately, it's also diverse. It can also be disruptive, and it has to be smoothed, and it has to meet certain requirements that are unique to your functionality, to your process, to your product. And even then, we need middleware. And even then, on top of that, we have to have an application layer. And an application layer, of course, to an AIDC person is far different from an application layer to, say, an Oracle person or an SAP person, EDS. This is a different world altogether, but we recognize it, and we call that enterprise. And when we reach enterprise level now, our clients and indeed our products and many of our clients insist that all and everything is in the cloud. That's all very nice, of course, but clouds have a tendency to develop rain, and one of the issues that you must enforce is that it doesn't rain on you, a data of misinformation and untimely errors that are compounded and expanded over time. Things have to be equal to the task. XX labels printed, number of scans made, reads read, packets sent, product shipped. This kind of data has to come from the shop floor in today's model. So industrial IoT challenges, operational technology and information technology, data security, new systems and more access to them from more places, from more devices, plant control and visibility, more functions moving to the cloud. Even if they are not more data driving more, they are part of the fulfillment model. New skills required, new devices, new functionality, because we're not going to have people. So the problem is managing innovation. What about the reluctance from stakeholders to invest heavily in new technologies? Because they are reluctant, because their increase in those dollar requirements have increased massively in a short time, and yet the utility, the amount of life in those devices decreases. So let's talk about Edgware. Edgware is a process that allows the basis of a blockchain ledger system to be the holistic change for an IIoT context. It's to identify any inventory item, any formula item, etc. And unfortunately, one of the great things about Edgware and about the blockchain ledger system, holistics, etc., these are all fabulous buzzwords, but at the end of the day, you still have to pay an invoice against a physical event. And that physical event, of course, is constrained by not any numbering system, but by the human ability to stick with those numbers. So as we add more complex data and more complex information in an interrelated data set, it becomes all Greek to me because I'm human and I can only remember so many products. That's why it's very important to us that we practice the Ohio principle. Zero human intervention systems to allow more and ever decreasing independent processes to occur on the fly. There is nothing without Ohio. Zero human intervention operations. Our clients, when approaching us, when asking us to work with them, seek us to make sure that they reduce the dependency on someone doing something, because we are, at the end of the day, of course, human and inherently unreliable. As such, we strive to create systems and deliverables, engines that allow us to be successful and cost-effective, and in the industrial Internet of Things, based on the Ohio principle. So, how do you measure the Ohio principle? How do you structure your organization, your IIoT model? And the answer is, of course, that you talk about your industry, about the requirements, ever-increasing requirements these days, concerned with information security, information integrity. You will notice that the pyramid actually has your industry at the top and your client at the bottom. Why? Because it's your client who underpins your industry. It's you that required it. It's you that's supplying, fulfilling this requirement. And the way you do it is through virtualization networks, increasingly digital transformation, with integrated information security, with your asset management, and all of your enterprise level models, your apps, your MRPs and ERPs. But of course, all of that has to funnel through something if it is going to be of value to your industry. And that something has to be your AIDC technology. So, what is blockchain? Well, it is used in a variety of ways. It refers to technologies that are basically shared ledgers. But they're shared ledgers of data, you see. That's where people get a little confused. They're not ledgers for payment. That's nice, but it's not actually what they are. Blockchain is a technology platform that allows us to share any ledger of any kind, and it's an event manager, not just of financial data. It's algorithms that help achieve decentralized consensus. Strange, isn't it? One should have something called decentralized consensus. We can explain that to you at another occasion, or simply by calling in and asking us, what the hell is decentralized consensus, John? You can refer to a deployed shared ledger system, and you're referring to a blockchain. It is not a general purpose magic word. It's actually become one, but in fact, behind it, below it, above it, and through it, it is an extraordinarily complex but necessary engine that you are going to have to deal with. Let's talk about how we're dealing with it. In the physical sense, here is a typical blockchain model. You would be talking about looking at things on the inside. On the lower end of your screen, you see a perfect layout of what might be a shop floor or a warehouse, a retail store, a fulfillment center. It doesn't matter. Here's what does matter. Every single element in there forms part and parcel of an industrial Internet of Things and a fulfillment model based on blockchain principles, because every single thing in there is talking. It is making a noise. It is giving you some information. It is giving you event management. It is the event corridor. And as such, follows certain rules. What is IIoT Edgware? It's the vital component in the e-society. It's the Edgware item. It's what consists and what you use to make it happen. And it's, in fact, blockchain is a digital transformation tool. As you excel and as you exceed today's fulfillment models and you reach for the next fulfillment, you have to be digitalized. If you look at any supplier today of anything in your world, the word digital appears, not because it's a nice word to use, but because in fact, we are a digital-based society. Everything we do is triggered by digital transformation, and that is only going to accelerate because it is the only way we can deal with complex data collection, data acquisition. As we say here in Lowry, we have data capture abstraction platforms. So let's ask ourselves one last question. What's an item? What's an Edgware item? What's Edgware? Edgware is a trade or traded item. It's defined as a product or service, anything that you're working with in order to achieve your fulfillment models. Edgware determines the value identifier of the process model, and it basically provides you with an ability to allow yourself to associate with the activity, the event, the payment, the receipt, the fulfillment. Yes, we're at fulfillment again. I'm sorry to keep grinding on about it, but it is extraordinarily important. And that's why we have engaged in the Hyperledger Fabric blockchain that allows formulation of expanded data strings that provide chains of custody that are trust models. You can trust a blockchain, Lowry-enabled fulfillment model to meet your criteria and to be trusted by your partners. I know we're going right back to the beginning of my statement, but it's trust and it's your partners. So we call it Lowry chain. At this point, I would like to transfer over to my colleague, Chris Pritchard, who is our Sonaria product manager. Chris, how are things in Charlotte today?
Thank you, John. It's a beautiful day here in North Carolina. And as I bring the presentation up here on the screen, bear with me. So now you should be able to see my screen, I believe. And thank you for that introduction, John. And thank you to everyone else online who's joining us today. We're very happy to have been able to meet with many of you at the RFID Journal trade show a couple weeks ago. And we're excited that you could be here today with John and I for this first introduction to our new Sonaria software as a service. Many of the issues that John highlighted in his presentation are exactly why we designed Sonaria from the ground up to harness new IoT technologies that are available to overcome those challenges, so that we could deliver new Industry 4.0 use cases easier than we had ever been able to before. So what do I mean by Industry 4.0? Let's start by getting familiar with that term. If you're not familiar with the concept of Industry 4.0, in a nutshell, it represents just the next step in the evolution of manufacturing and the global supply chain. The Industry 1.0 period begins at the bottom left here with the introduction of mechanical production with water and steam power. When electricity became widely available, plants were modernized and mass production spread out, which marked the second industrial revolution. The third step along the ladder here introduces robotics and greater automation. And that brings us to where we really are today, in the transition between Industry 3.0 and Industry 4.0. Where the vast majority of companies remain on the Industry 3.0 side of things, but some industry leaders have started to take steps to move into the next phase of 4.0. So what'll the fourth revolution bring, and what'll make that change possible? When we look forward to Industry 4.0 today, we can see that the next step is fueled by the connected enterprise, connecting production and materials handling systems with the Internet of Things, and also connecting supply chain partners in ways that were not possible before, using things like blockchain. Greater connectivity locally inside the four walls and between trading partners will really shine a new light on operations to see what is happening at a level of detail that was previously very difficult or even impossible to achieve. The increased visibility to see an incredible level of detail through sensors and automated data collection allows that data to be analyzed and understand not only what's happening, but also why it's happening. And once we understand why something is happening, then we can harness that insight to predict and be prepared for what will happen next. And finally, in Industry 4.0, we see the supply chain will start to use the new data and insights to become more adaptable, self-optimizing, and self-healing. And these trends are clearly visible within the industry. Here in this survey from the Aberdeen group, we can see the reasons why companies are looking to take advantage of the benefits of industrial IoT. 55% of those companies surveyed expect to reduce costs. 51% are looking to improve uptime and availability of their equipment. Further, 45% expect to increase velocity. 36% want to improve the quality of their products. And 23% of those companies are working towards improving safety. So when we looked at the problem of how do we get to Industry 4.0 to realize those benefits where we're understanding, predicting, self-optimizing, we could see in our experience over many years has told us that one of the biggest challenges is enabling the Internet of supply chain things and connecting it to the enterprise. It often ends up being overly complicated because of tightly coupled dependencies between applications and middleware and the actual underlying technologies. This makes it difficult to implement new technologies, difficult to swap out or upgrade technologies, and difficult to use multiple technologies. So that's one of the main reasons why we designed Sonaria. Sonaria is a hybrid cloud and on-premise platform to connect with any IoT device or data source, leverage that data in intuitive apps and dashboards, and integrate data from the edge with ERPs and line of business applications for transaction automation. At the top level, you can see that Sonaria uses the cloud to host services and applications to provide efficient data storage and analytics, centralized visibility and control across sites from a single location, high availability, and connectivity opportunities with trading partners. As we look further down the Sonaria development roadmap, we're working towards leveraging the unique capabilities and benefits of blockchain technology, like John mentioned, such as transparency, immutability, and smart contracts that can help to improve data sharing throughout the supply chain for enhanced asset tracking, supply chain planning, and complete product traceability. The second major component of Sonaria is the IIoT Edge server, which you can see here in the Edge layer is typically implemented at each site for local data collection and process control. This hybrid architecture ensures responsive system performance, and it also provides resiliency as well as security with support for multi-factor authentication and integration with existing enterprise security controls like Active Directory for user authentication. The Sonaria Edge server is also responsible for connecting and consuming the data from all of the IoT and data collection devices at the bottom device layer within each site. The Sonaria Edge server abstracts away the data collection hardware and technologies, allowing the system to be more flexible and sustainable to support changing business processes over time. Sonaria is a complete software as a service offering and allows solution providers like Lowry to bundle it together with additional services to offer the complete solution as a service, including not just the Sonaria software, but all of the hardware, software, implementation services, support services, all packaged together as a single complete managed service offering. So to summarize a little bit, the Sonaria Cloud, Edge server, and devices all come together to capture IoT data from operations and drive that data up to ERP and business applications for transaction automation and to the cloud where it can be harnessed in analytics and dashboards used for alerts and notifications and shared with trusted supply chain partners. In addition to driving those benefits up the stack, Sonaria also pushes process automation and error proofing out to the edge of the enterprise by facilitating centralized administration, health, and monitoring all from the cloud. So what kinds of things are we talking about connecting to the industrial Internet of Things more specifically? First and foremost, we're referring to the flow of materials and goods through the supply chain. Enabling the raw materials, work in process inventory, and finished goods with the ability to be identified and tracked as part of the Internet of Things can bring insight to the full scope of operations from receiving through storage, picking, production, staging, and eventually through shipping. The products can even be tracked as they transition through downstream supply chain partners or even throughout the complete product life cycle after delivery to the end customer in some cases. But not only are we enabling the product inventory to connect with the Internet of Things, we're also connecting the assets that are used to support operations like the production machines, tools and equipment, vehicles and materials handling equipment, reusable container inventories. By identifying and tracking all of those assets as part of the IoT, we're able to manage their performance and ensure they're available when needed to keep operations moving. Something as simple as not having enough containers on hand in the right places at the right times can lead to production delays and additional shipping and handling costs. Leveraging a single flexible platform to connect inventory and assets to the IoT means we can easily extend the same capabilities to the inventory of tools and equipment that are essential to the supply chain. By managing the tools and equipment within Sonaria, we can ensure they're available, ready for use, and easy to locate when needed. Finally, we can also enable and connect with the people who are charged with getting the job done, like the materials handlers and machine operators. By bringing those people into the Internet of Things, that creates new opportunities to improve safety, help ensure product quality, and get insight into the operations to find additional opportunities for improvement. So what are we able to achieve by connecting the inventory, assets, and people of the supply chain to the IoT? By connecting all of those important sources of data, we can deliver real return on investment today with next generation Industry 4.0 business processes in areas like traceability, manufacturing execution, and work in process tracking, packaging and labeling automation, inventory management, and asset tracking. In each of those areas, Sonaria provides improved profit, safety, quality, and productivity through automation and error proofing, while providing the data required for improved insight, decision support, and optimization. Sonaria makes the solution easier than ever to implement, upgrade, and maintain by abstracting away the data capture layer to eliminate vendor and device-specific dependencies while making the entire system easier to monitor and manage from a central location. The Sonaria apps are packages of supply chain use cases with unique features, workflows, reports, and dashboards that are designed to deliver improvements and return on investment as quickly as possible. For example, if we take a look at the work in process application, within it we find features, configurations, and dashboards designed specifically around use cases like interactive assembly, where the system may provide intuitive work instructions and references at each workstation in the production process, or parts and materials error proofing, in which the system will ensure production equipment is only operable when the correct parts and tools are being used at each step in the process. We also see it supports additional processes for parts replenishment automation to identify automatically when parts replenishment orders should be submitted to keep the flow of parts moving more efficiently. Or we can see quality management is also available to ensure that items such as on hold, scrap, or expired inventory and materials can be tracked and excluded from entering the supply chain. Finally is the aspect of traceability the system provides by identifying and tracking the history of each part or unit of material that goes into each finished end product, which is important for enabling complete end-to-end supply chain traceability. The inventory management application includes support for several use cases like efficiently receiving, validating, and labeling inbound parts and materials, as well as tracking storage and transfers to maintain accurate inventories and keep operations running smoothly. When it's time to pick, stage, and ship products, Sonaria provides automated workflows that ensure orders are complete and accurate. Within the packaging and labeling set of capabilities, we can see several very important use cases. The first step in connecting the flow of parts and materials in the supply chain to the Internet of Things is to clearly identify them, and that often begins with labeling or parts marking. Sonaria can also automate packaging and labeling processes, including item case and pallet labeling, label verification, and error proofing. Easy line setup and changeovers are also possible. And of course, traceability is a key aspect of the solution here, as it's a necessary part of product identification and tracking. Within asset tracking, you can see the types of assets and applications that Sonaria makes possible. By identifying and tracking these items, such as reusable containers, tools, and equipment, Sonaria can help to avoid supply shortages and production delays. In addition, making these assets part of the Internet of Things means that they can interact as part of the other applications as well, like work in process, to enable new error proofing and traceability options. And finally, again, traceability is a common thread among all Industry 4.0 IoT use cases. Traceability is one of the most important factors in ensuring product quality, and it enables new use cases for improved customer experience and satisfaction, like product authenticity and counterfeit prevention, and also product lifecycle management. The Sonaria apps are designed to deliver these use cases out of box as easily as possible in order to achieve results as quickly as possible, while at the same time providing the flexibility required to be a really robust and sustainable long-term solution. So how do we make all of these great use cases and benefits achievable? Sonaria makes things much easier than they were previously by providing a single platform for any item identification and tracking technology or IoT data source. At the bottom layer here, you can see we start with the IoT connectors. These are the individual drivers or interfaces that enable each technology to plug into the Sonaria platform. These connectors extend the enterprise to the Internet of Things by enabling communication with the physical devices and data sources at the edge, like active or passive RFID, Bluetooth low energy, barcode scanners and verifiers, ultra wideband RFID, vision systems, PLCs and control systems, sensors and actuators, and so on and so forth. By abstracting the underlying technologies and providing a common data layer to collect the information, Sonaria undoes the coupling between technology and business process, enabling you to easily swap out or upgrade to new technologies over time, or mix and match different technologies to improve user experiences and enable new use cases. In the middle are the core capabilities of the Sonaria IoT server, including centralized system management, device health and monitoring, the workflow engine configured with your particular business processes, rules, and alerts, and the Edge data repository. The Edge server core includes everything needed to enable fast and responsive Edge use cases and keep operations running even in the event of connectivity issues with the cloud. Finally, at the top, we have the interface layer, which enables the Sonaria Edge server to connect and share data with cloud services and your enterprise applications. Sonaria is able to both retrieve data from business systems for Edge process validation, such as for orders, and as well as to interface with those systems to provide IoT data and automate transaction updates. So what devices are supported within the platform today? Currently, we support several data collection technologies, including various forms of RFID and barcode technology, along with support for sensors and actuators through relays and general purpose input-output. We support several modes of UHF RFID, for example, ranging from zone-based tracking, threshold, or transition detection modes, as well as real-time location with precise XYZ location coordinates. We also have support for a lot of additional devices and protocols in the works, including GPS, which is coming out very soon, along with near-field RFID, and expanded support for label printers and applicators, as well as support for additional PLC integrations and control systems protocols like OPC. And we also have many more devices and connectors on the longer-term roadmap as we look out past 2018 and beyond. In addition to fully automated data collection from all of those IoT sources, another part of implementing the principle of zero human intervention operations that John described for us earlier is only involving or burdening the users at the right times. Sonaria is designed to allow the system to handle as much automated data collection in the process as possible from any type of device or data source. This way, during the normal course of operations, the employee is only burdened with the bare minimum of data entry requirements, and Sonaria can actively monitor the status and alert the employees in real time so they can handle any exceptions immediately before the cost of the error is compounded and it becomes a much bigger issue for them. To that end, Sonaria provides a common platform to implement efficient edge business processes with intuitive apps for web browsers, native applications for mobile devices, including smartphones and enterprise handhelds, and also support for several Bluetooth and USB peripherals to extend data capture capabilities to additional devices such as smartphones. So now let's take a look at some of Sonaria's most important features. Here you can see the device management screen. Sonaria provides a single pane of glass to manage all IoT devices across the entire site or across all sites in the enterprise. Sonaria reduces IoT device management and maintenance costs by providing an easy-to-use tool for device configuration and management, while also enabling real-time health monitoring for proactive troubleshooting and maintenance. Within this screen, as you can see here, it's very easy to see the status of each device at a glance and to configure device monitoring alerts to resolve any issues as soon as possible. Sonaria also provides a unified location tracking engine, taking location data from all sources to provide accurate location tracking as items are in transit or deployed in the field around the world using GPS, to support for several technologies and modes of operation within the four walls to provide tracking all the way down to an exact precise shelf location or with XYZ coordinates as may be required by the use case. If we switch over from the slide presentation now to the actual Sonaria asset tracking application, you'll be able to see some of this in action. Bear with me here while I bring up the web browser, and I'll probably need to log in again. I'll start by logging in quickly here. And as the screen comes up here, I'm going to switch to the asset search screen. And from here, within the asset tracking application, you can see that we can very quickly get a view into the asset inventory across each site by asset type. And here I can see and filter the list of asset types at each location. So if we were to filter this list down, for example, to just the items at our RFID journal site, we can see that list gets filtered down here. And if I click on one of these items, it can take us directly to that location in the map, as we can zoom in here. And as we can see, we're in Orlando at the RFID Journal Trade Show. And if I click on this pin on the map, it'll bring up additional information. We can see here the total number of assets in the facility. And with this map link, I can drill down to get even more information from this site. So now we've drilled down to this particular site. Some of you may recognize this from the RFID Journal Trade Show. This was our booth there, where we had several items tagged in the booth to demonstrate real-time location tracking, as well as zone creation and transition detection within the system. Here you can see the icons indicating the last location of each item that we were tracking there when we turned off the system after the show. If I move over one of the icons here, you can immediately see some additional details, including a photo of the item and its current status information. I can also click on one of the items to drill down and get even more information. If I select this item from the list, the first tab that I see here is the tab including all of the asset details and other data. The system allows for configuration of any number of data elements to be tracked for each asset type and supports a wide variety of data types like menus, numbers, or dates with configurable business rules in order to validate data entry and reduce errors. So you can see here in this example, this asset type has been configured with a few custom fields, including weight, model, and manufacturer. You can see at the bottom all of the unique identities or tags assigned to the item. And up here, the additional basic details, including description and location and status information. If we go to the second tab up here, we can see that this is the transaction log. And what we see here is that the system keeps a complete transaction history for every single asset within the system throughout its entire life. So from the time you acquire an asset until you eventually dispose of it, it will keep track of every update and change that you make to that asset's information, including where it's located and other information throughout its entire life, so that you have all that for reference and reporting purposes. If I switch over here and go to one of the management screens real quick, I'd like to show you how easy it is to manage locations within the system. It provides complete location and zone management. So for example, if we wanted to define a new zone within the system, it's very easy. I can simply click on Create Zone here. You can see to start out that we have 2 zones defined within this demo. I can create a new zone very simply by selecting the Create Zone option. Then on the map, I can enter the name and description for this new zone, and then simply draw the zone in the area that we want to put it. So for example, we could locate that new zone over here at this building, for example. And very easily, we've identified this new zone within the system. And now that we've identified that new zone, we can use it to configure geofencing rules and alerts to enable automatic notifications as assets transit into or out of this facility. Or even if I decide that I wanted to define this zone in a little more detail, I can clear this circle shape, and we can even identify it exactly by drawing the zone around the location to get an even more precise definition of that zone. And there, now we have an exact definition of that zone, and we can be alerted to assets moving into or out of that zone as necessary. I'm going to switch over here now to show you a few of the dashboards and charts we have in the software. So in addition to orchestrating improved operations, Sonaria also provides analytics and dashboards, allowing managers to gain insights for further improvement. These tailored reports and dashboards are included with each Sonaria app. Reports within each app help to support and manage daily operations, while dashboards also help to manage and optimize performance over time. Some Sonaria dashboards and metrics, for example, are things like inventory accuracy, asset utilization, surplus inventory, shipment accuracy, and process error rates, for example. All of the management dashboards include great features like summary roll-up statistics for an at-a-glance view, year-over-year comparisons, which you can see up here at the top, and responsive interactivity and drill down. So as you can see here, as I roll over each month in this asset utilization trend, we can see the specific data for that month very easily. We also have on our future roadmap plans to leverage additional capabilities within the cloud around predictive analytics to be able to provide new insights into predictive maintenance, capacity planning, and resource management. But here at the top of this asset utilization dashboard, which tracks our asset inventory levels and utilization rates over time. And this allows us to quickly see both the current performance as well as performance for the same period in the prior year. You can see some of those summary pieces of information here at the top. And in addition to clearly presenting the utilization metrics over time, the dashboard also allows us to quickly see the metrics broken down by key dimensions like department and asset type, as you can see here in these lower charts, for example. As I scroll down here, you can see some additional examples of different charts and dashboarding capabilities. Here's another drill down example where we're looking at a summary of assets by asset type. And I can click on this particular asset type, cables here in this case, And we can see for all of the cables in the inventory what the specific status summary is for those cables. So here we can see we have 54% cables available. Here's another example where we can see the dwell time of assets by zone in order to get a better understanding of how those assets are flowing through the operations. And within the chart, we're able to identify a maximum dwell time per zone so that it can easily highlight for us any zones where that dwell time is a little greater than what we would like to see. So I think I'd like to wrap up here today by switching back to the presentation for just a moment here. And I'd like to just take a quick look to review with you just one more example of how Sonaria can provide a solid ROI in as little as 6 to 8 months or less. One of the areas where we most often see opportunities to achieve a quick return on investment is in the area of shipping and order fulfillment. Typically, companies that have not yet made the jump to Industry 4.0 will often be using manual processes with pen and paper or printed reports to manage shipping operations. These manual processes are usually accompanied by a subsequent process down in the office for the data to actually be entered into the business system. Companies often employ barcode scanning during shipment with varying degrees of success. However, the need to individually locate and scan each and every barcode can take several minutes on average for each item, and these processes can still often face difficult issues with efficiency and accuracy, like relying on a combination of scanning and unreliable manual counting for verification, or the system may only provide validation at the end of the process when the transaction has already been submitted after the full truck has been loaded. Or worse yet, it may only allow the information to be recorded without providing any real validation or error proofing of what's being shipped and what data is being recorded in the system. With automated shipment verification using passive UHF RFID for data capture in this example, the worker is only required to identify the initial order and loading dock information, and then Sonaria is able to take over and automatically verify each item against the order in real time as it's being loaded while providing the worker with updated status information. In the event that any exceptions are detected, such as the wrong product being loaded, the wrong quantity of items, the wrong dock door being used, or product that's been flagged as expired or on hold is being loaded, Sonaria is able to immediately notify the employee of those issues so they can take corrective action and resolve it as quickly as possible. Finally, after the shipment is complete, Sonaria has all of the data required to automatically update and record the necessary transactions in the host system or ERP. This kind of automated shipment verification provides return on investment in several ways. That includes the materials and rework to replace missing or incorrect product, the handling, repicking, reshipping of replacement product. It avoids the cost for expedited shipping that you may face. And last but not least, it also provides the time saved for each and every product shipped by upgrading to a more automated process. All of that adds up to savings that we estimated for one client to be greater than $1.8 million saved over 3 years. And all of this is not to mention the value of improved customer satisfaction that will result as well. So I think that's a great point for us to wrap up on today. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today, and thank you from both John and myself. We're both very excited about the new Sonaria platform, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and giving us the chance to give you this brief introduction and first look at it. Thanks again, and we'll be in touch to follow up and learn more about your specific projects very soon. Goodbye.